One of my last videos where I spoke about book talk and anti-intellectualism took off way more than I anticipated it to. And that was really, really excited for me. But as I was going through the comments, it became clear that a few things which I said was misconstrued, misinterpreted, or I just didn't communicate that well. So I really wanted to, one, clear up that. And also, as I read more and more of the comments, I realized that I do also need to speak more on book talk, the misconceptions about book talk, and where I stand with book talk on a whole. So, first and foremost, to the last video where I definitely spoke on people nowadays not having the capacity to read longer books. And I think for a lot of people, it insinuated to them that I believe that longer books are better than shorter books, or short books just aren't good. That's not what I'm saying at all. There are some books that are 150 pages, which are absolutely amazing. My main point from that video is just the fact that people simply cannot engage with a book that is too long anymore because they simply do not have the capacity. They do not have the attention span because they are being basically trained to prefer shorter books. That's not to say that those books will be bad, but in certain instances, for example, in high fantasy, where you need the extra detail and the plot develops so much to make the book and the story better, the longer the better. But that is not to say that short books are bad books. Just need to clear that right now. Now, that being said, I know that I am someone who has made a few videos criticizing book talk, but I'm not going to down the entire platform. And so I really do feel like I need to, yeah, just clear up some misconceptions, but also stating what I have noticed, what I've recognized, what I've experienced with book talk. Because misconceptions, yes, but some of those misconceptions, or all of those misconceptions, are based on a certain level of truth. So I thought I'd speak on that today. But first and foremost, I'd just like to actually state that I do not engage with book talk as much anymore. If anything, I barely, barely go on there. And it's weird for me because I think book talk is really where I got, I guess, my come up or my start in the social media world with books. And to not be as involved anymore is kind of weird, but yeah, I just can't anymore. And it's for several reasons. One of those reasons being that my personality is suited more to booktube. It's just suited more to long form content. I feel like if you've watched my videos or if you know me personally, then you just know I have the gift of the gap. I can yap. I am a certified yapper. And I love that about me. But it just means that on a platform like BookTok, where you have to make content that is like 7 seconds long, that's not always going to work for me. I have more to say, or I just want to keep yapping for time and time and time. BookTube allows me to do that and gives me an audience who enjoys when I do that. So, of course, I have fallen more in love with BookTube and a bit out of love with BookTok. Now, it's not just my personality that's made me step away a bit from BookTok. It's also some of the interactions I've had. I feel like if you've been on BookTok, you've just you've realized there's just so much chaos. And even from that video that that started this conversation about anti-intellectualism, where we saw a few posts from a few creators saying a few concerning things. When you're on that platform and you're seeing content like that consistently, constantly, it gets a bit tiring. Yes, you can just work the algorithm so that it caters to you, your interests, the people who will appease to your likes. That is very true. But at the end of the day, you're going to see some of the crazies. You're going to see some of the crazies, whether you see it directly or in a commentary state. And because of that, I was just like, I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit tired. Because you're scrolling, you don't always have the option for what you see, even if it's for a few seconds. At least on YouTube, I will scroll. I don't have to hear nonsense at all until I click. What book talk? I'll hear at least 10 seconds or at least 2 seconds of that nonsense, and that'll get on my nerves. So I'm not in the mood. Yes, I still engage with book talk because book talk can be so lovely, like I said, but it gets a bit much, and I don't want to fall into that trap of just doom scrolling. I definitely at one point found myself doom scrolling, and I said, absolutely not, absolutely not. I'm becoming a zombie and I'm doom scrolling and I'm not reading. And I had to say, absolutely not. That being said, Book Talk has its good and its bad. And I feel like because obviously I do comment on a lot of the bad, people sometimes, or recently, a lot of people are saying, this is why I'm not going to join Book Talk, or this is why I will never join Book Talk. And that's not what I'm trying to get people to say, because over the weekend I actually had an interaction with a friend and we were talking about like a food and she's just like, oh, I hate it, I dislike it, da da da. And I actually asked, have you ever had it? And they were just like, no. And then I said, well, at this point your opinion is invalid, I'm so sorry. And it wasn't even a mean way. Like, it was just a case of, when you haven't tried something, you can't speak on it. I'm so sorry, you genuinely can't. Which is why for certain books I'll say, oh, I can't comment on this because I've not read it. You will have to make your own opinion. Why I might not read that book is my own prerogative, but I will not comment on it unless I've read it. And if I am commenting on it, I will definitely make it clear I've not read it and I am just making assumptions, okay? So same thing applies with Book Talk. Being that a lot of people have not tried it, Liv, you're going to have to step back. You can say, oh, from my perception, from what I've perceived, it doesn't seem like it will work out for me. That's fine. But don't dog it until you've tried it 100%, because there is good in the community. There's lots of good in the community. You just have to sift through. And if you're not willing to sift through, that's fine. But say that you're not willing to sift through without dogging it. Say it doesn't seem cool, I'm not going to go. But don't say Book Talk sucks. You have not experienced it to say that it sucks. I'm just going to land there. But on to the misconceptions that I want to clear, because there are quite a few. And I'm just like, I don't want to give rise to more of these. Let's clear the air. And like I said, some of these misconceptions are like, they're rooted in a bit of fact, which is where they came from. But let's just go through it. Now, obviously I wrote these down, so I'll be looking at my notes here and there. So if you lose eye contact, ignore it. Let's just go from the very beginning. Book Talk is just about romance novels. Now, I could definitely see where this one has come from, because the romance novels, the romantasy novels, they definitely dominate Book Talk. No matter where you go, you'll definitely come across a few romance novels. But, I'm going to be saying that word a lot in this video. There are sub-communities in the wider Book Talk community. I remember I once spoke about how Book Talk was described as an onion, and you have to peel the layers to really get to what you want, or to really get to, exactly what you want. You can keep peeling until you find the exact layer that you want. That's what you have to do with Book Talk. You're going to come to the wider community, and it definitely will be dominated by romance novels and people obsessed with romance and nowadays spice. But if you start sifting through, if you start peeling through those layers, you're going to find your community. And a lot of those communities are absolutely amazing. So if you're a fantasy person, if you're a thriller person, if you're into contemporary fiction, if you're into literary fiction, like, you will find a community that is into that, and that definitely gives you what you are looking for. You just have to look for it. So yes, I will admit that Book Talk is dominated by the romance genre, but that is not the only thing on there. So if you want, go look and you'll find. Easy as. Next, now this one is very so-so. It's that Book Talk only promotes popular or mainstream books. Well, it's the same principle as the romance novel being the only thing on Book Talk. It's the same principle. Well, the bigger creators are those who will be pushed out by the algorithm, and a lot of the bigger creators are centered around romance novels. That is very true. But there are other people promoting other books, because there are other communities reading other books, and they will promote those books. So once again, it's more so about, if you are fixing your algorithm, if you are making it so your algorithm knows what you want to see, and they will push that to you, and those people will push other books to you. It's not just popular books. Now, like I said, you have to find it. You have to sift through it, because a lot of creators will push the standard popular books. And what is there to expect? They're popular, of course they're being pushed. But then there are other creators, and I definitely do this all the time. I love reading books from everywhere, and I read a lot of diverse fiction, and books by diverse authors are not as popular because they do not get as much traction. But I push those books, I promote those books, and there are several others who promote those books, who promote indie books. There are others. You just have to, once again, look for it. Now, this one, I think I've definitely spoken on this, and yeah, it's interesting because yeah, there's definitely a lot of truth to it, and that is that book talk is shallow and not literary, and that definitely comes from a lot of things. That's from people only pushing the popular books, and the popular books are really just quick smut sometimes, or people only push the 7-second videos where they don't really go into the book. There's not a discussion, there's no deep dive, there's nothing. It's more so read this book because it made me scream, read this book because the guy is hot. There is nothing in there because they only have like 10 seconds to give you what they need to give you. But you will find people with full on video essays. Yes, TikTok is short form video, so the most you can find, I think they've extended it to 20 minutes or maybe 10 minutes, cannot remember. But for a long time, the most you could find was a 60-second video explaining why you should read a book. And so, of course, you weren't going to find any deep dives, any like true deep dives into certain books. And so, for a lot of people, that's just like, I can't deal with that. We are losing the art of literary analysis. A lot of people were just not for it. And like I said, there's truth to it because of the limitations of the platform itself. For a long time, you only had 60 seconds. But now that it's been extended and people have 10 minutes, people are doing full essays, there's like a limit to how deep a deep dive can go in 10 minutes. But people are actually analyzing books more on BookTok. You just have to find those people. Like a lot of these misconceptions, I think it definitely comes back to you, whoever you are. If you are engaging with BookTok, it comes back to you because you have to actually put in the work to find the people who are doing what you want them to do. But the fact of the matter is, these people genuinely exist. Now, I think this is one of the other misconceptions that I definitely have seen a lot of and have even spoken to just a bit, and that is that BookTok is ruining book culture and reading culture. Now, it's a misconception, but it's based on a bit of truth. I definitely see where a lot of people are coming from with this, simply because with BookTok and with, the books that are being pushed out a bit more, they're a bit popular. They are a bit on the, simple side. And I think a lot of people are missing those books that made you think, that made you actually have to sift deep into the book and think about what is being said in the plot. And it made you come away and literally just mess with your brain half the time. But now it's just a case of boy meets girl, girl meets boy, they like each other, kiss. That's a simple example, yes. But I think a lot of people have been criticizing how a lot of the books being pushed out on BookTok are the books that have weak plots, like very little story, not much character development, the world building is poor. Like, I've seen it quite a lot, so obviously I'm going to comment on it. And yes, it's being pushed out a lot. Like I said, some of these misconceptions are based on a bit of fact, because yeah, it is a bit of fact that a lot of the books coming out nowadays, all of those that I just mentioned, apply to them. Very little plot, poor story, poor character development, all of that. But one of the things I will definitely say to that is the fact that book culture will obviously reflect our culture. And so the people on BookTok, they're just pushing what is now their own life. And so it more so speaks to the wider world and what we're actually giving rise to. and book talk is really just falling in line with what's happening around the world. So again, things like that just come back to us as a society and us as individuals, okay? Because if that's all that's going around, that's because there is demand for it. Why is there demand? Because that's what everyone is demanding. And so it's a case of, okay, so what as a society are we uplifting? What as a society are we encouraging? And so if in your books, the books that you're seeing being pushed, you don't think it really helps book culture, then maybe take a step back and say, okay, maybe the culture sucks and something has to change. And what can I do for it? But even in that sense, the culture doesn't suck completely. The culture is questionable, definitely, but it doesn't suck completely. And we really just, I guess, once more have to look for what we want. There are a lot of books that delve into a lot when it comes to society, when it comes to character development. Like, there's a lot of books that speak on more in-depth issues, and it's not just surface level topics. But go hunting, go hunting, go hunting. Okay? Have fun. And definitely one thing I think I definitely want to address are the misconceptions around BookTokers. So that was more so book talk. Now let's look at the misconceptions around BookTokers. Now there have been a lot, and it makes me laugh being a book talker because I'm just like, it's cute to see what people think of us, which is why I never usually go around identifying as a book talker. I'm just like, I'm on there. Yes, I'm on there. And that's about it. And one of the very first misconceptions is that book talkers read hundreds of books a year, or at least 100 books a year. This conversation, I definitely want to have a wider conversation on, because from that last video, there were so many people making so many comments around this. And I just had so much to say, but there were so many comments coming in at once that I just had to step back. Not all book talkers read 100 books a year. Not all book talkers read 300 books a year. And on the same line, some book talkers do. Some book talkers do. Now, the conversation around this is very interesting because you have a lot of people, especially from that last video, they're saying, I knew these book talkers weren't really reading the books. Of course, they're skipping paragraphs. Of course, they're just skipping pages. That's how they're reading 300 books a year. That's how they're reading 100 books a year. Personally, I don't know how some people read 300 books a year. That one is wild, but I think we actually need to look into a bit of the details and a bit of the context. Some people, being a book talker is actually their full-time job. Their full-time job. And so you, every day, the same way we go to our 9 to 5s, because I have a 9 to 5 over here, it's the same way they're waking up and literally they pop a chair and they open a book and they have to just read. That is their job. So it is definitely within the realm of possibility for them to read 300 books a year. There are 365 days in the year. It's definitely within the possibility, especially if some of those books are shorter. And you know what, as someone who actually reads really quickly, I do read very, very quickly as an individual. You can read a book in a day. If you have, 200-300 page books, you can read 2 books in a day, especially because if that is your job, it's not like a regular 9 to 5. You can read up to midnight, okay? You can do it. You can push out those books fully. But that's not what everybody is doing. Some of us, like I said, we got 9 to 5. We don't got the time for this, okay? Some of us like sleep. Some of us like sleep. Some of us are very social. I don't really fall into that category, but I know some of them are. Like, they go out. So they're not reading 24/7, okay? So it's not every book talker that's going to scream, I read 180 books. I read 400. Like, it's not every book talker, okay? Don't be looking at every book talker like they're crazy. And also for the ones who are reading 300 books, don't be looking at them like they're crazy either. Some of them definitely might be doing it. I will definitely say, some of them, I fully believe you do not read them books. Fully believe, like, I am on the side of a lot of the commenters. Some of those book talkers, I fully believe they don't read them books. They don't. There's no way. I'm just like, please. Absolutely not. Or if they read, they fall into the category of the people that we saw in the last video, where they're skipping paragraphs, they're skipping pages, they only read dialogue. And honestly, I wanted to speak so much more on that point in the last video, because what are you getting from just dialogue? Genuinely, what are you getting? Like, There are some books, there's dialogue like once every few pages. Like, what are you getting? Like, it's so confusing. But I digress, because if we get onto that, we won't get anywhere, because that's absolutely crazy. But back to that point. You can read 100 books in a year. For those who are doubting, saying, I knew they weren't reading all those books, you can do it. It is possible. It definitely depends on your personal circumstances, and it also depends on your discipline and your commitment. I read 100 books last year. I barely made it. I set that goal for myself. But I had discipline. I was reading at all times in the day. I had a book with me everywhere I went. I don't leave the house that much, so there's also that. I was always reading. Okay, I was always reading. Yeah, but you know what? I like the books that I read, so I would stay up and read. Like, you guys know. You guys know when a book is really good, you do not care. You're doing that one more page, one more chapter. You are doing that until the book is over. It's definitely possible, but we have to do it by case basis. So just clearing up that misconception that not everyone is reading 100 books in a year, and that's fine. And also, the people who do, it is very much possible to do it. But also, let's be real, some of them really aren't. They're not doing it. They're lying. They're very much lying. Okay, I'll come out and say it. It's not even allegedly. I'm just very certain that some of those people who are saying they've read that much books are lying, and I'll stand by that. I won't say any names because I don't know people personally. I just know that some of you people are lying. I just know, okay? Especially with the way some of them like review the books. Like, you didn't read that book. So I don't know how you counted that in your book count. You didn't read it. That's all we gotta say. Next misconception. Let's go, okay? See, BookTokers BookTokers only post books that they are paid to read. That was so funny. That was absolutely so funny. I feel as though when book talking became a career path, or just being a TikToker became a career path, but we're on BookTok. It became a career path. It definitely became harder for people to then trust the books being pushed out to them, which is why I'm happy platforms have made it mandatory that you disclose when something is a paid advert. We do know that not everyone does it, but I'm happy that they made it, mandatory, so that at least some people will obey the guidelines. But that's not always the case, guys. And it definitely is hurtful, because if you definitely love a book, but that book is part of, marketing, that, a promotion that you're part of, you then have that barrier where certain people won't trust what you're saying, because they're just saying that because they're being paid. She's just saying that because she's being paid. And I know for a fact there have been books that I have been in love with, but it was part of a promotion. But I love the book. And I remember there have been a few books where in the back of my head, I'm just like, I hope people do not disbelieve what I'm saying simply because I have the paid advert on the review. Because yes, I got paid to read this book, but the book was still good. Like, it was still great. And one thing I will say, I don't know about other reviewers, but I got integrity. I'll definitely always give, you guys know me, I'll give a balanced review, but I'll let the author know how I feel about the book. So that they don't get blindsided if they get a bad review. But the thing is, I think with a lot of book talkers, what's happened is that book talkers just take on anything, and they're just like, yeah, I'll read it, even if the book isn't in a genre that they would traditionally read, traditionally like. And so when they don't like the book, they'll still give a good review, and this is where things get complicated. Me? No, me? I'm doing research. What have people said about the book already? What is the book about? Me, I'm just like, you got mythological creatures? You got some dragons in there? I'm reading it because I know immediately unless it's poorly written, yeah, I'm not gonna like it. But if it I just know what type of books I like. Now, I've told everyone, I will read literally anything you give me if it sounds good. So in the genres that I don't normally read, I will give it a shot if it sounds good, if the premise sounds interesting, if I get a recommendation from someone who I trust, because I trust their reviews and they haven't let me down before. I'll usually read books from different genres, but especially when it comes to what I'm doing, like people ask me to promote their book, bro, what's the genre? What is it about? Like, what are the tropes? Because nowadays everything is tropified. So I know there's a trope that's gonna be in there, but do I like those tropes? Okay. And I take those books and I review those books and I will give an honest review. And to me, a bad review is like two. Like I always think three is midway. Like it's not like the best, but I think three is just like it's an average book. Like it's okay. So I don't, I'm just like, I don't think that's the best. So I'll give you a three if I have to give you a three. But you might get a fair warning. Luckily, the books I've promoted, thank God, they've not been bad. Because it would be really, really bad to be like, I didn't like your book, yeah. But I haven't, like, weirdly enough, I haven't promoted like that many books. Like you would think like I'd be paid to promote like a book a day, but no, I've had like very limited amount of book promotions, which I'm happy about because at least the books I've gotten I've liked and I've promoted them well. But yeah, book talkers. It's not that they're paid to read every book. That's just not how things go, guys. And yeah, I think it being a business now makes it harder to trust people, which is scary for us who actually read and like books because you're not trusting us. That trust might start getting eroded if, something goes down. But also, you might miss out on really, really good books because, there's that lack of trust, which is why I definitely pride myself on the trust that we have as a community. I'm just like, have I ever let you guys down? With the books I've given you, when I give you the review, I let you know everything about that book. And so you guys know how I feel about it and why I feel the way I feel. And then you can make your decision on whether or not to go and read that book. For example, To Gaze Upon a Wicked God. Obviously, I was not paid to promote that book, but I gave you guys the ins and the outs. I told you guys everything about that book that I didn't like. I said I went off on it, and I even told you guys I will continue to read the series so I can hate on it more. But you guys, I pride myself on giving you guys the real, giving you guys the full-on truth so that we don't get to the point where you guys are questioning whether or not I'm saying something because I'm paid to say it. I'm just like, I would never let that to happen because that would break my heart. But yeah, book talkers are not paid to read everything that they read. If you're a book talker, I expect that you just like reading books and then you have been given a platform. And sometimes that means you get paid. But you don't read every book because you're being paid to read it. Okay? Please start trusting your book talkers just a bit more. Just a bit more, please. The next one is very, very interesting, is that book talkers always have access to free books. Like, we just have a full library and we can get any book that we want. That's not true. That's not true. You see this library? You see this? I've paid for almost every book on this shelf. This has cost money. It's cost money. It's cost money. Okay? Yes, obviously we have privileges in the sense that we get arcs, whether that be e-arcs or physical arcs. We get those because of our status as book talkers. But guys, it's not like you're getting every book. It's not like you're getting every book. Do you know how many books are released in a year? Do you know how many books are released in a year? You don't get all those books. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because I remember, and let me give you just one example of this. Because one thing with me, I love ebooks, but I also believe in supporting the artist. Okay? So a lot of the times I will actually have multiple copies of a book because I will have the ebook obviously gifted to me, and then I'll buy the physical book to support the actual author. Case in point, N.E. Davenport, amazing. So she wrote The Blood Trials, which I really, really enjoyed. And when the second book was coming out, I found out that the second book was getting released on my birthday. And so I went on BookTok, and I've spoken about the book on BookTok before. I raved over it, and I shouted her out. I was just like, if you can, gift me that book for my birthday. I won't even lie. I said it as kind of a joke because I was just like, ha, like, give me a birthday gift of this, because it's getting released on my birthday. She reached out, and then she gave me she was just like, yeah, please message them and they'll send you the book. And they sent me the book. Keep in mind, because I love the book so much, I had already pre-ordered the second book. That book was already on the way. I don't care. It was coming. I did not cancel my pre-order. So I now have two copies of The Blood Gift, which is the second book in the series. One gifted to me by Nia and her publisher, and one that I bought because I will continue to support her. Yes, book talkers, we have the privilege of being gifted books every now and then. Some people are more popular, so they literally do get a lot of books. But we buy books. Like, we buy them. We buy them. At least I would hope that we buy them and we don't rob people. Okay, it's just how it is. It's just the truth. You have to remember, guys, and I keep trying to emphasize this. A lot of us are 9-to-5ers, okay? A lot of us are 9-to-5ers who love reading. We came online, spoke about our love for reading, and we're given a platform. But we're still 9-to-5ers, you know? We still have to make ends meet, and we still have to pay for things that we want, like a normal individual, okay? So don't be hating on your book talkers because every now and then they get a free book. That's all I have to say. Now, the next thing, which I think is really, really interesting, is the fact that book talkers aren't real readers, that book talkers are influencers and not readers. And I think that's where a lot of people have landed on because of the shift in the atmosphere. Because we've had a few book talkers who have behaved in an unsavory manner, being proven to not read the books. And obviously, we're seeing some of those videos where people are saying, I skip chapters and I skip paragraphs and I only read dialogue. And we've seen a lot of like videos recently about book talkers being scammers, you know, scamming indie authors and other authors, like, and there's just so much going on. And I think the more these stories come out, the more people are distrusting book talkers. For example, I know that certain people genuinely will not pick up a book the minute a popular book talker speaks about it. And I was just like, whoa, has it gotten that deep? Has it gotten that deep? I know, like I said, I know some people have become untrustworthy. But is it that deep? Is it that deep? I don't think it's that deep for some instances. I think if you were interested in a book and someone that is popular comes out and now raves about the book, I don't think you should then turn around and say, I'm never going to buy that book. Like I said, if you don't give something a chance, I don't think you have the right to say anything about it. Like, if you haven't read it, you can't speak on it. Like, so sorry, if you haven't seen it, you can't speak on it. And if you're still so weary about getting a book from a hyped up book talker, one thing that I do, and I hope nobody tries to critique me because I think it's very, very fair game, go to your library. Go to the bookstore. Read it. Read it there. And then if you want it, buy it. And like I said, guys, I don't leave my house quite a lot. I don't. So easiest thing for me to do is go online. I don't like go online. They have the samples of the book. I'm just like, okay, I can see a vibe here. Read the reviews from trusted reviewers. And if you have the money, buy the book. And if you don't like it, donate it. Like, if you are able to do that, if you have the means to do it. But the whole idea that book talkers are now not readers, they're influencers, is interesting because I don't know why we can't be both. I know some people have just taken advantage and they're in it for the money. I know that for a fact. They're just in it for the money. They don't read. But some people genuinely just love reading and have found themselves an amazing opportunity where people like to hear them express their thoughts. This is an amazing opportunity to me that you guys are here and you guys enjoy hearing me rave about books, about people who read books, about the literary world. Like, it's absolutely cool that people actually like to hear me ramble on. But after this video, I'm gonna pick up a book and I'm gonna read. Like, me now having a platform doesn't stop me reading. It stops other people reading, that's for sure. Some people probably never started reading. But yeah, I know that there is like this thin line now between influencer and reviewer, and it's hard. But I think just because you have a platform does not take away from what you do on that platform. And as a book talker, that is read. Now, I know, especially because BookTok became like popular in the pandemic, BookTok encouraged a lot of people to start reading, and that was absolutely amazing. And I know that a lot of people they jumped on BookTok for clout. They're just like, this seems like an area where I can definitely get clout. I can blow up because all I have to do is read a book. And I know a few people probably got on that train. And that's unfortunate, but that's everything. That's literally everything. In this day and age, everyone wants to be an influencer. And so obviously we're going to have some people who are just here to clout chase. But I feel like it's becoming more obvious for people to notice the people who don't read because their reviews are interesting. Or non-existent. But I don't think we should distrust every single person with a platform simply because a few bad eggs have snuck in. So definitely, I don't want us to, discount the BookTokers that you see simply because they have that platform. Because, come on. Yes, we are influencers. I have influenced quite a few people to buy books and read books. But one thing I love is when people come back and they're just like, I read the book. You were right. It's amazing. I loved it. And one, that's great because, we can gab together. But more than that, you also help an author, You also help an author who has published their beloved book, and you help someone find a new book to enjoy, a new world to enter, a new story to fall head over heels for. It's amazing. It's amazing. So genuinely, yes, we have become influencers of sorts, but it's cool that we can make our passion into somewhat of a career or somewhat of an influence. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's done right. Hear me well. If it's done right, because some of these people are doing the most, okay? But that's generally some of the misconceptions I wanted to address because I know that I feel like a few people, especially after seeing some of my videos, you guys are probably convinced that I hate BookTok. I feel like you guys are there. You guys are just like, yeah, she's with me. She hates it over there. And that's not true. That's not true. Like I said, BookTube is probably more suited to me because I just yap, as you guys can tell by the length of this video. I just like to yap. I speak. And I love that. And I just like to go deep into a few things. So I love to explore things. I love to, just express how I feel to a screen because I probably couldn't do this in person. But it is what it is. BookTok has its bad, but like everything else, there's good in it. There's good. There's 100% good in BookTok. So, like I said, if you've not tried it, maybe don't say too much about it. Yeah, you know what? Not too much on BookTok, especially if you've not been on it. If you've been on it and it's been bad, you gave it a shot. But only say that if you actually gave it a shot. If you definitely tried to help the algorithm help you so that they could send people that you would want to come to you. If you didn't do that, again, not too much on BookTok. You didn't try. You didn't try. So sorry. Try harder. Try harder. Try harder. But if you generally do not like short form content, then TikTok probably ain't for you. And that's cool. That's cool. But at least that's because you generally know that you're not going to enjoy it. And even still, even if it's not your cup of tea, I would still encourage people to try it. I would say try something before you down it. Before you just give it away. Because you never know. Like I said, I'm a more long-form content type of person. But I've enjoyed BookTok. I've had the best time on BookTok. I've had great interactions on BookTok. It's been great on BookTok. And there are still great times on BookTok. I just don't interact as much because obviously I'm being true to myself and what I prefer. And that's okay. That's completely okay. So definitely don't knock BookTok until you try it. And if you're knocking it, it is what it is, isn't it? But that's all I had to say for today. I'm probably, I've fallen just a bit out of love with BookTok and more in love with BookTube, but that's not to say that BookTok is completely bad. BookTok definitely gave rise to more readers in the world. Whether what they're reading is what we want them to read, that's a conversation for another day, but it is what it is. But that is it for today, guys. I will see you next time.